It was about that time that I met some very scary voices. Voices of blame, voices of guilt. I started to assume the blame for my parents' divorce. I had a few pieces to this puzzle, and I was bound and determined to put the pieces together and make sense of what had happened. So I took the pieces, I crammed them together in a very distorted picture of what really happened. But the first piece of my puzzle was, I knew that my mother and father were married before I was born. Piece 2, I was born. And piece 3 was, my mother and father divorced, they are no longer together after my birth. And I took all of that, and I added all of those pieces to the puzzle that I thought I had. I added it to the forged Christmas presents. I added that to the absence of birthday gifts or cards or phone calls or visits just because, or gifts just because I mattered. And the answer to that very difficult equation was, there's something wrong with you. You are to blame. You are at fault. You're the mistake. You are unwanted. And I put every one of those words inside of my little brown suitcase. Well, over the years, that suitcase didn't get any lighter. In fact, it got heavier and heavier. I wanted so badly to replace all of those ugly words in my suitcase. After all, my father replaced me. What's the big deal about replacing just a few words? I didn't understand why it was so hard. My mama tried. She encouraged me. She loved me. She supported me. She set an example for me. But as hard as Mama tried, Mama can't answer all those questions that a little girl has for her daddy. See, little girls are born with questions burning in their hearts. They are not questions that someone wrote down and said, you need to ask these someday. They are not questions that got passed down generation to generation while having tea at Gram's house. They are not questions where their answers can be found in Daddy's Little Girl's Manual. These are questions that are born inside of every little girl the moment she's received into this world. They are questions like, am I worth my daddy's attention? What is my daddy like? What is his heart toward me? Who am I to him? Is there something in me worth pursuing, knowing, and exploring? Is there something in me worth drawing near to? Is there something in me worth spending his time, his strength, to be near and known and enjoyed? Well, I ask those questions. I ask those questions every single time I long to be pulled up into his lap. And I ask those questions every time, and I love you seemed like it would have fixed everything. And I ask those questions when receiving a simple gift just to show I mattered would have meant more to me than anything in the world. But I asked, and I got no answer. I asked those questions, and I came up empty-handed every single time. Oh, but I would not give up. I was bound and determined, as most little girls are, to get answers to their questions. Any of us that have little girls, and I'm certain little boys are capable of the same thing, when they have a question, by George, you are going to answer it. Well, I was not any different. I was a little girl with questions burning on her heart, and I wanted answers. I felt like I had little or no choice but to take my questions to other people and to other things. For a little girl's questions must be answered. Well, you wouldn't believe it. I actually found some answers. One of the first answers that I found was when I was around 12 years old, and I ended up being at a party that I was much, much too young to be at. And at this party, some very interesting teenagers, or as we probably called them at the time, the grown-ups of the party, challenged me and my two girlfriends to chug a can of beer. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We're 12. Like, what, you're missing the picture here, buddy. We're 12 years old. We're not drinking a can of beer. Are you an idiot? Well, before I could realize what was happening, one of my friends picked up that can of beer and she chugged that thing. And I'm talking down to the last drop, she chugged that thing. And I just went, I couldn't even pick my jaw up off the floor. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And then something even more strange than that happened. They were cheering her on. What? You're cheering? What? I didn't understand. And I scooted a little closer to my other friend, and I kind of put my arm around her, and I'm thinking, well, at least us two have our senses about us here. We are not about to be that stupid. Well, before you know it, girlfriend two had a beer in her hand, down it went. She didn't even stop to take a breath. And once she finished her can of beer, they were chanting her name. And again, I hadn't even had time to pick my jaw off the floor. I was in absolute shock. I'm like, what in the world is happening? Two 12-year-old girls have an audience of older kids completely captivated. Well, then I met the voice. You know, the one that sits on the other shoulder and talks all logic and reason out of you the very moment that you need it the most. Well, that little voice on my shoulder said, that's yours. That's your attention. That's your pat on the back. Those are your cheers. And they're stealing it from you. Take it from them. You deserve that attention. You deserve the cheering. Take it. Just take it. And without another thought, I took it. Down the hatch it went. I chugged it for all my 100-pound body was worth. And I'll tell you, in the midst of wanting to toss my cookies and my head reeling all at the same time, I heard my name. And they were chanting. They were chanting my name as if I was homecoming queen of the big game. Something I would have never heard otherwise. Well, I quickly became the life of the party. The party quickly became my identity. Now, not just that party. No, not just that one. See, if one party is fun, then more has got to be better. And I immersed myself in the role of party girl. Many parties came and many parties went. But after the party, I had to open up my suitcase and stuff in all the lies that I believed about myself while I played that role. Lies that said, you're never going to be anything more than this. This is all you're ever going to amount to. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You don't have any other qualities but to be this life of the party.